Hey guys, this is Matt, and you're watching, and you're watching.
You're watching This and That with Freddie.
And Matt.
And today, our first in-studio guest, in other words, in my room, good friend of mine, Brian Trainor, a.k.a. Doc. He, among the many things he's done, the most relevant to this right here is that he played keyboards on our song Monsters Lament, which Tim Owens joined us on and Bill Hudson joined us on.
Right.
So he came right in here, brought his two huge organs.
Whoa.
Whoa.
It's great promotion.
Yeah. and lay down the keyboards that you hear. So the notes Doc play, actually the last thing you hear in the album is Doc's finger work. And we also are on the same hockey team together.
That's right.
I mean, I'm taking a season off, but the Pirates. So let's get started. So Doc, I understand you have a varied background.
Yeah, it's almost Forrest Gump. I didn't start out to be a doc. I actually started out as a pianist. And then I heard brain salad surgery. People said, hey, can you do this Keith Emerson stuff? So I go, whoa, this is harder than the normal. So I started out with science and music in college, and long things changed. Eventually I became a doctor.
Okay, well, you're just glossing over.
There's got to be more in there. I went from being a pianist to a doctor.
I was totally into a different form because I wasn't like your guys' music is really driving. I was kind of nerdy. I was into like Chick Corea and Return to Forever and Emerson, Lake and Palmer. So I did music and physics together, and the Air Force paid for school, so my parents wouldn't have to pay. So then when I finished, I started sitting. One of my professors was Deborah Harry's voice teacher. So I started sitting in bands that were based in the New York area just on some session work. So I had 3 or 4 bands that I would sit in with, anyone who would pay a few bucks. And then I went off and flew with the Air Force, and I got involved with a lot of human factors stuff as a pilot, and wound up going on to med school. And since I was a musician, I was interested in otolaryngology, or ENT, head and neck. And so through the whole thing, I kept playing piano as much as I could and playing stuff that's not cool, but that I like. And then Freddie said, you want to come over and work with me? And I said, this will be really cool. Yes, please. I'm on my way. Yeah. I brought this first while at a motif 8, 2 good workstations.
Yeah, obviously playing with us has got to be at the height of your resume. You know, it's got to be right top tier, right? I mean, you know, all that other stuff, man, was really not important up at this point.
Forget playing with Bon Jovi.
Yeah, I sat in a session with, that was one of my nightmares as a kid, because they said, maybe we could use 2 keyboard players. I thought, well, nah, I got the military paying, and there was a million bands trying to make it. I said, I'll pass. 4 years later, it's like, oh God, I could have been wealthy.
You just did a session with them?
Yeah, they had a couple at it was called the Journey Mill Inn. This guy Ed had it, and it was in Sayreville, and he was really clever. They kind of wanted to look at what Springsteen band was doing with 2 keyboard players, sound one more, piano sound another, and everybody I met there. Of course, some of them aren't in the lineup now, but the guy from Colonia playing drums and stuff. But it was a really good group of people. You know, there was something that made you want to work with them. They were really likable people.
JBJ was cool.
Yes, he was, and so was his parents. Great people.
Cool. Nice. So you're also a gymnast.
Yeah. That was it.
Jesus Christ, man! I feel like I've wasted my life.
That was sports.
What about your boxing career?
So.
I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding.
So, you know, my family thought I was adopted because they had all these little South Philly tough guys who were like 130 pound. My dad, his brother, my grandpa, and you know, every time we get together and go to South Philly, they go, oh, let's go down to the basement. I was like, oh no, they want to go boxing. But I competed that way. I was trained all that, but I started liking music, and my dad was thinking, this kid's not cool. He's going to be Liberace. I got to toughen him up.
Toughen him up.
So the guy who was a naval pilot was like, oh, no, this guy likes music more than boxing. But, yeah, starting from kindergarten, we had all types of martial arts and stuff all the way up through our whole life.
And then nice. I know a lot of metalheads. You've probably seen the Toxic Avenger, right, Matt?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, what was your role in that?
So it was a super low budget film, and I was the captain of the men's gymnastics team. But two of the kids, one did a film called The Untamed Heart, and then Jersey Boys. His name's Tom Sergio. He was doing stunts when he first broke into that whole Screen Actors Guild. Another kid was Jeff Gibson, who was. So they said, "Hey, come on with us. We need some friends. It's real low budget, but you get to see yourself on camera." So I did one of their stunts where they threw us through one of these glucose faux glass windows. But instead of having pole vault mats, they just had cardboard boxes. And I hit on my back, knocked every breath of air out of me. I said, I think I'm ready to go home.
Yeah.
So I did a part of the shoot on that film, and I retired. That was less than a week's work.
Nice. Hey, man. Hey, if you're only gonna do one, it better be a cult classic, right? So,
yeah.
That's it.
It was so bizarre to do that. It was my friends. They were good buddies, and they invited me to.
Nice.
And so, then when you're in the Air Force,
Yeah.
what were the planes you were flying?
So so first I started out, there was a shortage. I went to Helos briefly, but my full plane was the F-16. And, so having been a gymnast, everything aerobatic just felt natural to me. And so.
Going upside down a lot.
Yeah, it was really wonderful, and just, lucky people. And the funny thing that happened with that was, I'm old. When I was in college, Jimmy Carter said, if you're not from the academy, you should probably go to get a ground job. So I found out that if I got delayed I'm not saying I was dodging the war, but you get in grad school, you can defer. So I was at Columbia in grad school. So when I arrived to fly, I had already done research in hearing and sound because I was interested in that as a musician. So I got involved with a lot of stuff with balance and hearing from the flight side, what they call aviation life support equipment and test ops. So I did that, and I stayed on board. I thought I'd do one tour and get out, but I entered in 1977 and retired in 2019.
Nice.
And then when you got bored with that, you said, I'll be a surgeon.
Well, yeah, the surgeon thing happened at the end of my first tour. I just had done research, and so I said, hey, maybe I'll be an ENT surgeon and fly in the reserves. So, when I entered med school, I said, I might be the dumbest guy in this class. So I immediately got in the Air Guard in New Jersey, and I stayed in the Guard the whole time I was in medical school and beyond.
And then that got boring, so you're playing hockey now.
Yeah. I like trying things.
Anyway.
Decided to move to Phoenix.
Yeah, the hospital recruited me out here, so yeah.
Nice. So you're originally from South Philly, you said, correct?
My dad was, yeah. I grew up we moved to the shore, so I went to high school where they filmed the Jersey Shore.
Okay, right on.
Toms River High School, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my neck of the woods, man. So Jersey's just up north a little bit, so
yeah,
I can just take one little bridge and get to it. So from here.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Or the ferry. Hop on the ferry at Lewis, and drop me right off at Cape May. So.
You mean Lowe's?
Lose.
Lose.
Yeah. People not from around this area call it lose. It's spelled Lewes. It's Lewis.
Lewis. Gotcha.
It's Dutch. It's a Dutch thing. I don't know.
Just tell a family secret. My grandmother was Dutch.
Oh yeah.
I'll let you look that one up. So one of the funny things that might be embarrassing for you, Doc, is when you came over with the 2 keyboards to do Monsters Lament. Aside from all the layering we did, the first thing I just wanted you to hold the B flat, just to have a background, just a atmospheric note, which you're hearing the album. So I said, okay, you're gonna hear 4 clicks and then just hit the B. And when he do 1, 2, 3, 4, his finger slips off. The only thing you had to do was hit one note. So the first note was wrong. I'm like, oh boy. But then no, he nailed the rest of it. But I was just cracking up because you see all this here, and then just hit this note with your finger, and it slips to the wrong key. So
it's that precision work, that the surgical skills coming to.
Yeah.
I got it.
Well, I was going, no, Doc,
Nobody ever
that's
asked
the
me
wrong
to play
key.
one note.
No, Doc, the left knee. So anyway, now that you have his background, and he's been on our album and all this stuff, there are two big things that metalheads know about and sometimes worry about. You see people headbanging in the crowd all the time, on stage all the time, and listening to loud music all the time. You know, Matt and I know several people that have
included.
What?
Us included.
Not only the hearing, but also damage to the neck from doing that for years, and have had to have, fused or pins put in or whatever. That's actually kind of common with older metal musicians.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if you could maybe talk about
Sure.
when you're headbanging all hours and hours every night. What does that do to you?
Right. No. So very interesting thing about it is because, music has two parts. One is like where we're listening, but there's a guttural part. When you get above a certain decibel, you have receptors on your skin, and it's a whole feeling being in that concert. And so there's a great article, if you want to play on YouTube. It's 2008 from the British Medical Journal, just about injuries in headbanging. It talks about, one of the guys is Terry Balsamo from Evanescence, because he had a clot from shaking up and down really hard, and he had a stroke from that, hemorrhagic stroke. So most of they do it either head injury, what's head injury criteria, or neck injury. So the lower neck with the motion is between the lower cervical, which is called C7 and T1. And where these two little vessels that go up the spine can get intermittent clots, and you can get all types of damage to connective tissue. And then higher up in the head is just kind of sloshing back and forth. So there are injuries that come out of it. And some of the circular motions people do with their hair, there's a lot of stuff between the stage and the overall feel. And the interesting thing, because this British Journal's, at first when I'm reading, I said, is this a joke? Is this a Christmas joke? It came out in December. Is it real? But they talked about the average metal band, when they really get the powerful, tight stuff with the drum and the bass going, is around 146 beats per minute. And that beat gets a whole body rhythm with like an exercising heart rate. So if the dB's loud and your whole body's feeling it, you're hearing it, people get that motion going, they drive themselves. And it's a very instinctive behavior. If you go over to the rap venues, they get those slow kick bass in the rap that you can hear it in the car next to you, feel it in your car vibrating. So there's a lot of stuff that's done, but I don't think anybody's as tight and as fast or quick as metal. So certainly that motion takes it. It's a sudden, the jerking back and forth. It's not going forward fast. It's stopping fast and returning the other way that gets you. And then as far as the ear goes, once you're at a decibel, your body has a little muscle, tiny muscle called the stapedius, tries to lift off where the sound pressure goes into your ear. And once you get overpowering that for an extended time, then you start to lose high frequency. And that's where the ringing starts. And that's so many people that we go through rock that just all complain of that. So hopefully I didn't go too long on that, but it's one of those things I talk quite extensively because it's my day gig, but and my research was similar to that. When I was waiting to fly as a musician, like you guys were, like I said, I was never cool. It was always conservatory stuff. But I was like, everybody's complaining about the 2-inch tapes and getting great sound. Do we really hear it? Or are we just looking at the monitors with the engineers? So the more I started studying the hearing, that's when I had that experience between Bell Labs and Columbia. But it's amazing how much stuff we aren't aware of as children. And then as we start losing that high frequency, how it goes away. And they did a great paper with people in the New York Philharmonic that were older, and they're kind of stuffy. And so their hearing tests were nowhere as good as their music. So that tactile part of feeling their finger on the violin or their lips on the clarinet, there was all these parts of performing, and singers feeling, just the sense in their throat and how that vibrates and it bone conducts. It's amazing everything that's going on. It's really cool. And the part I like best of all is what gets you going so wild is that visceral component, the speed of it, the intensity. And I think more than anything, this is just me, I think that between the drum and the bass being so tight, that really gets people going.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think that I definitely know that I have suffered some hearing loss, certainly over the years. Probably more so in my later, and in even trying to compensate with in-ears and things like that. So you've got in-ears, but if not everybody's on in-ears in the band, then you're kind of compensating, like, just trying to hear myself. It may be a little bit louder in my ear than it is like for the rest of the than actually the stage volume or whatever. But I don't know if it's that. I don't want to necessarily blame that, or if it's just old age, but certainly I've been exposed to high volumes for a good portion of my life, and I'm sure that has taken its toll on me. As far as the neck stuff, the only thing I can say from my experience, I did a lot of headbanging for sure, but I always tried to get on more of a rhythmic thing, especially when I had long hair. I tried not to do that, like what you're saying. That recovery is what really, that snapback tends to get people. I think ultimately that's what got John Schaefer back in '96. When his neck, he had, and from then on he's had neck issues. But I always try to think more rhythmically and just fluid, and keep things, when you're headbanging, just be conscious. It's still cool getting into that vibe, but don't, try not to be so aggressive about it. Just flow with it, rather than try to be so aggressive. And I think that's what has saved me. I hope. Obviously it's still age and all that other good stuff. I still deal with some arthritis a little bit more so in my lower back, and that's probably from my chosen profession right now. But it is what it is, and I think that folks' education is certainly a good thing to do, and that's why we're what we're here trying to do with you.
Yeah. So another thing, like, let's say I've had loud music all my life, right, and all of a sudden I just stop. I don't do any more loud music. Am I in the clear, or can it creep up later?
Well, yeah, so there's a couple parts. It's I don't want to turn it into a science festival, right? But the cochlea takes a sound pressure wave and converts it to an 80 millivolt direct current, right? So these little hair cells are like antennas, and we have them all in this cochlea. So the high frequency part, once that's damaged and the hair cells are damaged, you're done. But there's so many, the progression from one injury to the next, certainly you arrest the whole process. So genetically, you can lose your hearing. Just with age, the receptors in the eye, your overall body loses some of it. But some of the damage that you would get from the loud noise decibel, the body doesn't really recover. And with the loss of hearing all day long, you tend to compensate with volumes before you would go and get a hearing aid. Right. So it's subtle, and you wind up raising your voice a little, listening to your music and television a little louder. So some of that stuff does get augmented, but certainly by stopping it, you guys know more live, but I think when you look what gets playing out to the audience versus what you have on the monitors on the stage is way more protective than, say, when the Allman Brothers first came out, or Zeppelin came to the U.S. in the late '60s.
Yeah, I think I don't plan on stopping right now. But,
No.
Well, it seems as though, and I don't know. I'm certainly not neither a doctor or a sound engineer, but it seems as though because of technology has gotten better, and that may be what you were alluding to as far as those certain frequencies. You don't necessarily have to be so loud to hear those frequencies, like through monitors and front of house and all that stuff. So you don't have to reach the volumes that you once did to get those kind of cool sounds that are there, or how to get that separation in a like a mix situation, like for a front of house guy. And that would have been a good one to have talk to Andrew about. But that's what it sort of seems like to me. Like sound technology has gotten so much better. We don't have to create these huge volumes to create these big sounds.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, you don't need the huge stacks and stacks and stacks of everything just to reach the back of the crowd.
Yeah.
Right. So, as far as, so you freaked me out a little bit about the headbanging thing. I didn't know you could get blood clots from it.
Yeah.
I just heard that for the first time. Like, that's what I do. I go on stage and I move my dumb hair around. And what about? Okay, so besides the blood clots and stuff, so can you snap a can you break your neck doing it?
Well, you have wear and tear on your neck, and it's that deceleration redirecting. It's probably the worst part, the neck part. So we bring it a head injury and neck injury. So that lower part at the bottom of the flexical cervical going to the thorax, that area there, based on the motion and the deceleration, would probably be the areas where you get most of your injury. You can get it on disc, you can get it on the bone, and you have periosteal layers around that in the tissue. So if you get some of that area swelling, it can be problematic from that. It definitely can. But it's not just, it's everything: connective tissue, bone, disc material, and blood vessels.
Jeez, I don't want to leave the house anymore.
No, you have to write all that stuff down.
No, I'm just saying, like, so, because I've
Well,
been
it's
doing
just
years and years and years.
yeah. Well, I think the thing is, it's just good to be aware and be aware of what your body can do and what it can't do. It's just like anything else. I mean, I'm sure everybody's body is different and has varying degrees of what it can take and all that. But like I said, just be smart about it for sure. Try not to be, I know it's hard, man. It's aggressive music, but try to throw a little bit of love in there, not be so aggressive on your own body and harm yourself in such a way.
But the stuff is so tight, it's so visceral. Life has to have some risk to be fun, right?
Yeah. Dude, you're gonna ask Freddie. I know on some of our tours, I would, because I didn't have hair anymore, so I would be doing other things to kind of get that energy out, and I pound my leg a lot, like when we're playing. I just just to keep the rhythm, and man, I would bruise the heck out of my leg just pounding on it, and I know that's not good. Bruising yourself isn't good either. That could lead to clotting or whatever. But it is what it is. Like you said, it's a very visceral thing, and sometimes you just got to have that outlet.
Right.
Well, it's like Phil Anselmo used to always bang the microphone on his chest or on his head, and he would just be bruised up and bloodied everywhere from that.
Right. And you guys are in the most powerful, like, Freddie invited me and I said, I'm really ultimately nerdy. But he says, no, I think you can play these parts. I'm like, okay. But your music, more than just about any form, has the tightness between the bass, the guitar, the drums. And your vocals, as I listen to your track, layering them, sometimes on that octave, everything's totally driving, total energy. So it's pretty hard not to get, just want to go with it when you feel that much energy in the music.
Yeah.
Well, we hope people aren't going to watch us and just stand there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they're they're in one of the other bands. Right? Because the other bands just stand there.
Yeah, that's the ultimate compliment, isn't it? From another
Look at you.
with a frown on their face.
Yeah, these guys suck.
Yeah, that's okay.
It is what it is.
Been there.
Yeah.
Anyway, Doc, it's been great having you.
Thank you so much. It was a joy to work on. That's a great album you put together. I was just to be a part of it. Thank you guys very much.
Hell yeah.
Hey man, thank you, dude. Good chatting with you. Nice to meet you. And we'll certainly have to hook up next time you're in the area and back home in Jersey or Delaware area. That'd be great.
I'm gonna go buy a neck brace now.
Just wear it around the house.
Wear it around the house.
Yeah.
Paranoid.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, Doc.
Take care.
Check you guys out later.